so you know like things are going to go wrong. So yeah, let's see how it goes. But the main reason is we decided to have this monthly call to keep you guys updated about what we have done, what's coming, and also have an opportunity for Q&A so you can directly ask your questions here live and then take it from there. We hope to be able to do this every month from now on. And as pollination grows and the number of user grows and all those, we probably make adjustment as we go and we'll learn about that. But for today, we will start with a presentation. Some of you might have seen some of these slides, some of you may not. And after that, it's basically open to you and what you want. I can do some demos, we can answer questions, and then we'll try to wrap it up at 1 hour from now. Before I start, like any questions, any issues, everyone can hear me. I mean, if you cannot hear me, you don't know to tell me you can't hear me. But okay, it seems like it's all good. Let me share my screen. So you can all see my screen too. Is it loaded? Okay, good. Great, thank you. Junkie, am I good to go?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I see like 41 people here. I thought it will be between 5 and 10. We'll see how many we get. So thank you for the interest and trusting us and joining. As I said, I'll start with a presentation about pollination. If you're here, it means you have access to Discord, so you kind of know some of this. I didn't know like who knows what exactly. So it's a short presentation, but I try to touch base on core concepts. And then if you have any questions, we can take it from there. So Pollination, as you know, is a collaborative platform that we're building for energy and environmental simulation. What we are trying to do is to help the whole industry, the AEC industry, to make well-informed decisions faster and together. So what we are trying to resolve is not really only running simulations faster, but to resolve this problem that we call it a 2-week turnaround issue, that you have architects, designers on one side, you have consultants, engineer on the other side, and they want to collaborate, you have a deadline for the project, and you know the way we work is we say, okay, thank you, give me your model, we'll wait for you, whatever we need to run, and then there will be a design option developed usually in a software I'm not going to name, which is huge and has a lot of things that you don't need. You send the file over to your consultant, or consultant gets the file from architects, they're out of office, then they spend a lot of time after they come back to remodel everything or clean it up. We had a lot of interviews with people in the industry, and it was kind of sad, but real, that people really remodel everything from scratch with all the interoperability stuff that we have. Still, that's what's happening. Then you spend like some time to run the studies that you had, and then when you turn back and you have some results, it has already been between a week or two that the design team had no feedback on what they needed. Result, the design has already changed. You have done all this work that you have done, and a lot of time this doesn't get really integrated in the design because you don't have time to really reevaluate your design work. And you know, like sometimes people just put the report. Sometimes you ignore the updated report that comes in. As a person who worked on both sides, as an architect and as an engineer or consultant, I know how that works. If you're on the call, you probably know how that works. And this is what we're trying to fix, not only this part. And the way we are approaching this problem to solve all the steps is by developing 5 different components. The first one is CAD plugins that we are developing. So we are developing Pollination Cad Plug-Ins now for Grasshopper, Rhino, and Revit. The one for Grasshopper is already out. The one for Rhino, we will release it next month. That's one of the announcements that we have. And the one for Revit will be released soon after that. So the reason for the CAD plugins is to help you to stay in the platform that you're used to and create your analytical model, right? Clean analytical model. Then the next thing that we developed is our analytical model, or HPJSON file. You can think about it like GBXML, a modern version of GBXML. It's a file format that has all the information from your building. It's, at least for now, works for energy and daylight simulation, and we can add additional support for different type of simulation. It has built-in validator. It has all the things that you think an analytical model in 2021 should have. Then the next concept that we developed are recipes. Why we develop recipes? The recipes are reusable units of logics. We wanted you to have access to these advanced units of logic for building simulation from different platforms. That CAD plugins that I showed, and also any other platform that you want to develop. If you're developing a web, interface, or if there are other tools that need this kind of simulation and they don't have access to, that's why we develop recipes and why you have recipes. After that, of course, cloud computing, because we want things to run faster. And we have the web interface, which is the place that the collaboration can happen. So all the simulations that now you run will be accessible to other people on the platform or other people on your team, depending of being private or public. So these are the 5 elements that we are developing all together to build what Pollination is. So it is not a desktop solution. It's not only a cloud solution. It's a hybrid solution that has cloud element to it and it has desktop element to it. I go through every single part element to just give you an idea of how the whole ecosystem is. So the CAD plugins on the desktop side helps you to create your model. This model will be translated to HV-JSON file and then will be used by the recipes. The recipes can be executed locally or on cloud. One thing before that is the HV-JSON format also gives you the option to check your model before running the simulation, right? So you can QA/QC your analytical model when you export an HV-JSON format before running any simulation to make sure the model actually is what you think it should be. And then you can run it locally, of course, or you can run it on cloud with all the good things that comes with cloud. The result visualization part, if you have been on the platform, is something that we haven't done yet. It's not finished. It's not on the platform, but it's something that we are working on. The rest are working. And actually, if this local run is disabled right now, but if you right-click on the component, you see the option is there. We just disabled it to figure out some details. We have documented all the principles of pollination, why we developed it the way we developed it, why we made decisions the way we did on different part of it. You can read it on our blog. The link is down there. And you can easily find it if you go to Pollination Cloud and go to blog. Then I take some time to talk about recipes, which is the core concept of pollination, as is now. So recipes are a reusable unit of logic, right? You can think about it as a cooking recipe. So it's a reusable unit of logic that can be done in different places. By reusable, it means if you know this recipe, you can cook, I can cook, someone else can cook. There might be different qualities based on your cooking expertise, but everyone can cook, right? Recipe is the same thing. It's a reusable unit of logic that you can run locally, you can run on cloud pollination, you can run it on Windows, and you can run it on Unix. So by redesigning this concept of recipe, we are making this accessible to a larger community. And we are taking it more than just being something that you can run inside Grasshopper. Why is it important? The first thing is, now if you're developing something locally and you want more people to have access to, this transition from local to cloud to production takes a couple of minutes instead of taking a couple of months of development. Similarly, if you're running it on a local machine for a small model and now you want to run it for a very large model, it takes a couple of minutes. It's go vertically up there and you can just get it all done. Again, in a couple of minutes by deploying it to Pollination. And if you are already logged in, you probably know what I'm talking about. The other thing which is very important with the concept of recipe is collaboration and how it makes collaboration possible without going back to that methodology that we had before that you send the full model. So this shows a workflow for when you want to calculate your blind, right? Dynamic blinds schedule. And usually the 2 things that you check at least is direct sunlight and glare, right? So you want to check these 2, and it's fine for a lot of projects until you get a project that has a reflective building right next to your building. So now you have to count for reflections, and you don't have a recipe for that. In the old way of working without pollination, that would have been, oh, now we have to get a consultant. The consultant says, oh, we don't use any of your tools, like send us the full model. We go back to that 2-week game that I just showed at the start of the presentation. Now what they can do is they basically deploy, the consultant deploys that unit of logic as a recipe, and you can access that recipe and integrate it into your workflow. You can think about this similar to how in Grasshopper you install a new plugin and you get a new component that you can integrate into your process without like redoing everything. Or if you're a Dynamo user, it can be a Dynamo node that you do. That's how the concept of nested recipes work. The other thing that recipes makes possible, and having recipes on Pollination makes possible, is this issue in the offices of, all of us have that Ladybug tools, what they call it, a script that we think should be the same. They're not the same because you changed it during the project. Someone did some editing and all those. So this is all done now because there is only one on Pollination that people can bring down and load into Grasshopper. And that means if you have one person taking care of that and you make sure that's fixed for your whole office. So that will make QA, QC possible and make sure like people are running what they meant to run. The other thing that's very important, and as I talked about already, is now recipes will be accessible from different platforms. Here, Rhino, Grasshopper, and Web as 3 of the platform that I wanted to show. So why all this is important? Because one of the major issues for all this collaboration is interoperability, right? We need these models to go around without losing data. And that's a huge problem in the industry. And for that, we developed HBJSON. I just give this a slide, like mostly for developers here to understand like why HBJSON is a useful format and why we think it's different from what the other formats that are out there is. One, for HBJSON, we have already developed the scripts that takes HBJSON and generate Radiance format, OpenStudio, and Energy Plus, right? So you get OSM, you get IDF, you get RAD, and actually you get GBXML too, right? That's one. The other thing is because we use OpenAPI specification, we can auto-generate SDKs in different languages. At least C# and Python are the ones that we're using heavily. We're using it for our own plugins, which means you can also use it. And that means now it's not a Python-only solution, and it doesn't mean you have to create the JSON yourself. You basically use the SDK, so you can program the whole process, and you can edit the whole model, so you have full control on your analytical model. But in simple board, it means this. It means there is a format that connects that CAD tools on the left side to your simulation engines on the right side. And this is what makes Pollination also possible, because Pollination is basically one step between the two. This file format, which is the analytical model that we have, goes and gets consumed by recipes. Just to be clear here, you can write your own recipe that doesn't use HBJSON. Use OSM, use IDF, use RAD directly. For the recipes that we are writing right now and they are available on platform, almost all of them are using Honeybee JSON because we have more control when you give us a Honeybee JSON file format. It doesn't mean the platform is limited to using HB JSON file format. And yeah, this is just a video to show that when you have HB JSON, it means all the data comes in. It's not geometry only. It takes all the schedule, loads, everything that you have in the model. And as I said, it's designed to work with both for energy simulation and daylight simulation. So all the radiance modifier are, first level citizen. They are just the same as like how you have energy plus construction. It's not like energy simulation first and then other things we added as extra. Makes interoperability possible. This is what I said. So the Revit model on the top left is inside Revit. This one in the bottom is a HBJSON file imported inside Rhino. And you can see it's a clean model and it has all the information. And that's the major difference. Like it's not only like, oh, it's great to come from Rhino to Revit to Rhino and all those. It's because the GBXML that comes out of Revit is not usable. It's not reusable. I mean, that's something we can talk about. If anyone, I don't know a single person who gets GBXML out of Revit and really use it for their real work. So this is something that we are trying to address with introducing both HBJSON and having a Rhino plugin as the intermediary, whatever that word is, I pronounce it wrong, one step between the two platforms, so you can have this easiest step of editing and controlling in QA, QC, everything before you go to GBXML. Again, to be clear, you can directly go from Revit here if you want using our plugins, but then you miss this step of like editing stuff outside Revit. You can edit everything inside Revit, but then there are a lot of like real world issues with that, of like how far you go between differentiating your design model from your analytical model. And that's something that we can talk about if you want. We wrote a full blog post with video, like as an example of this process of like taking a model from Revit, going all the way to IES and OpenStudio. If you want to watch that, if you want to know more, that's the place to go. And finally, we do all this because we want to solve the collaboration issue, as we said. So this is what I just showed, which is the broken system that we have now. And this is what Pollination makes possible to happen. So Pollination comes in the middle as the layer between the two sides that are working together. And after this meeting, instead of when you have Pollination, you don't ask, send me your model. The question is like, what are you trying to model? You either have a recipe, just refer them to the recipe, or usually we know like for every project, you have a recipe, you have to change it a little bit and help, like to get this exactly for that project. So you do that, you deploy to Pollination, then they use that as a service. They use your recipe from their side instead of sending you the full model. And this is possible because of that clean analytical model that I said. And then the process goes for another version, and at some point it's good enough. And then you get feedback at the end of the project. You make a version 1.0, which can be reused for other projects. As you can see here, we are basically treating recipes like software packages. Like how you have other software packages that are versioned, and you get a new one, and things gets added without breaking the whole system. And it's available to you to use instead of like having to go to that person. This gives you the extra bonus time on the design side. It gives engineering side and consultant side more time to work on the stuff and have more freedom instead of just sitting there like cleaning model, input model, and trying to run the study. They can basically, both sides can do what they're good at and work together. One question that we get a lot is, okay, what's the relationship between Pollination and Ladybug Tools? So Pollination and Ladybug Tools both are developed by Ladybug Tools LLC. Ladybug Tools is our open source project, which we develop and maintain. Pollination is our commercial product that we are developing to basically work with Ladybug Tools. They're basically completing each other. So this is how it is, like the overall image, considering both Ladybug and Pollination. So Ladybug is on the desktop side, right? And it has a Grasshopper. It comes with a Grasshopper plugin that helps you to generate this analytical model. There are simulation recipes that comes with Ladybug Tools. If you're using the LBT plugins, you're basically using the translated version of recipes that you see on Pollination. So they're basically the same recipe that runs locally. You can run the simulation locally. You can do the result visualization. So Ladybug Tools is here to stay. Some people were concerned that we're going to ditch Ladybug Tools or something. That's not going to happen. It's actually getting better. If you have used it, it's now faster. It's easier to validate. It has all the good things that we developed for Pollination to make it possible. So what about Pollination? Pollination, when it comes in, it adds 2 CAD plugins. So you have Rhino and Revit plugins coming with Pollination. You have the extra recipes that Pollination offers that you can run. It offers the web-based 3D viewer that helps you for QA, QCing your analytical model before running it, or after running it, because it's available on the web and you can go check that. It gives you cloud-based simulation, so you can run the stuff faster. Yeah, I think like we got our first promotion by someone else. Assis posts something that how he simulates something in 10 minutes instead of 8 full days or a week, I don't remember, 40 hours. So that's great to have. And something that we are working on, which again is not on the platform yet, is this data analytic package that being able not only to look to data in 3D as in a building, but being able to look to data like a data scientist. I mean, for now, you can also download all the results from Pollination and take it to any platform that you're using. So we're not stopping you from doing that. But eventually what we want to do, we want you to have all this ecosystem of a scriptable model, a scriptable recipe, a scriptable result visualization. So everything should be automated. Everything should be exposed and being able to visit by the right party. As you can see here now, you can have that person in the office who's responsible for simulation recipes to develop them, validate them, and make it accessible to everyone else. You can have your project manager who is not concerned how you model it to check the data analytics that they are concerned about. Like, are we getting this credit that we want to get? Are we going better? Is this project getting better with design iteration? That's what is now possible with all pollination stuff. So resources. I talked about all these things. You already know a lot of these resources, but I wanted to list it here just in case someone didn't have a time to check that. So our website is www.pollination.cloud. Pollination forum is discourse.pollination.cloud. This is a still invite only. So if you're here, you most likely have access to it. If don't, let us know. That's a strength. Then we started user manual that you can check. It's at docs.pollinationcloud/user manual. It's a work in progress, but that you can see where we are going with the documentation of all the pollination products. And after that, I want to talk what is going to happen between now and our next call. And we have 62 people now joining us, so perfect. Should we have Q&A or should I go and finish it?
Why don't you finish your presentation and then we have the polls, so we can just poll the audience real quick.
Okay, sounds good. So between now and our next call, what are the things that's going to happen? End of early access. So early access will end at the end of this month, month of June. In July, so don't worry, like I saw some faces of like, wow. So yeah, do take advantage of this time because this is like the most unlimited access that we wanted you to have. The goal was for you, for our like early adopters to come in and break everything. And thank you, at least you broke it 2 times, which was great. So we fixed it. It was great for us to learn about the limitations of the platform, worked pretty well, worked as designed for us. I think like maybe we should have like a break person of the month or something, whoever broke the best. So we learned something about that. So that's one thing. But then the next step will be our beta testing. So during the beta testing, we want to invite more users on the platform. That means you will have a little bit limited access. So you won't have the resources as much as you had right now of like, technically have like unlimited amount of resources that you can run. You can still test it. You can still use it for a real project and still it will be free, not paid. But yes, the early access will end at the end of this month. We will release the Pollination Rhino plugin. It will be a WIP release. You can use it. It's free. Like you can use all the functionalities. The only thing is WIP. So after a while, it will expire, and you have to download the new version of Rhino plugin. I want just to talk a little bit about Rhino plugin that's coming in, so you know what is the Rhino plugin. So Rhino plugin makes Rhino basically a full-fledged interface for preparing your models and even running simulation for energy and environmental studies. It works with the geometry editor of Rhino, so you have like access to all the good things that comes with Rhino to really edit your model. It has a control panel, so it gives you access to all this metadata that you need for energy daylight simulation. And then it has properties editor, so you can edit all those stuff too. You can also run simulation, as you can see here, but that's not what we want to get out of the first release of the plugin. Really, the first release of the plugin for us is to provide this interoperability hub for building simulation using our Rhino plugin. So the file format that you can import are HBJSON, GBXML, OSM, and IDF. Depending on what file format you use, so if you use HBJSON, OSM, you get almost all data in. GBXML has its own limitation that everyone knows. And IDF also, like, you might lose some items like HVAC. But we basically, if you start from Rhino, you should be using HBJSON not to lose any information. It has integration with Grasshopper, the Rhino plugin. So if you want to automate some stuff, if you are an advanced Grasshopper user, you can use it. Pollination adds some extra components to Grasshopper. So it will be a mix of Ladybug tools and pollination stuff. I'll show a quick video here that how that works. And then you can export to all this format, HB, JSON, GBXML, OSM, IDF, and RAD, which means you can export to IES, TAS, and Design Builder. We have been testing this. If you watched the video that I recorded before, there was an issue with importing to IES. We figured out why that was happening, and that's fixed. I have tested it with TAS, and it works pretty good. And with Design Builder, we will be testing it. And this will be something that, again, like we do another video so you can see like how it works. But so the goal is to make sure you have a way not to spend like 90% of your time remodeling everything in that platform, right? I'm not here promising like 100% is solved because we know like there will be edge cases, but we're here to help you with 90%, 95% of like all the things that you had to redo not to do it. For OSM, you can go to OpenStudio. If you're on the OpenStudio user or Energy Plus user, you basically get all the data because we write everything to OSM, so you're not going to lose any data here, and there is no need to redoing anything. And then if you go to RAD, there's Radiance folder, so you can take everything to Radiance and do all the stuff that you need to do with Radiance. And as a matter of fact, these are the things that we do on the platform for our recipes to run our studies. The other thing that Rhino plugin offers is automation using the Rhino script, because the Rhino plugin itself is scriptable, the Pollination Rhino plugin. So you can do things like this. So you can write a script that basically does the reporting for you. So you can take all the areas, volume, all the things that you need to get from your analytical model to make sure it's right. You can also automate editing the model. So this one is a GIF. I hope everyone can see it. But this one is basically adds, changes the window to our ratio. Why is it important? Because for some of this, we have commands, right? We have Rhino plugin comes with some commands, and you can use those commands, you can do normal things. But then there are things that you need to automate, and you don't want to come to us every time and say, oh, can you add this to Rhino plugin? Probably if it's like useful for everyone, we will do it. But that's what it takes. You just can, if you have someone in the office, or we can help you, you know, like all the other things, you can basically automate your day-to-day workflows using this Rhino scripting. And because you have access to Rhino geometry library, you don't have the limitations that other tools usually have with scripting. So this is another example that usually engineers ask for, is like, okay, I get a CAD file, and I only have the polylines. Can I generate the full model with programs and everything? Yes, you can, as you can see. So this is, again, like for this one, specifically, actually, we have a Rhino command too. And all these scripts are actually already available. And that link that I have down there is, sorry, is the SDK. So as the SDK is documented and the commands are documented, as soon as the plugin is released, you can start using all that. And yes, it works with Grasshopper too, for people there who are like, why should I write something in Rhino? We are trying to make it possible for people who are scared of Grasshopper for good reasons to have access to all these things. That's the Rhino part. But if you know Grasshopper, you can do a lot of those automation in Grasshopper. And now, as I said, there are extra components that comes with pollination that allows you, when you're done with the stuff in Grasshopper, let's say for a large building like this, you can just bake it as native Rhino objects now. So you can basically go back and forth between the Rhino plugin and Grasshopper plugin, if that makes sense. And they're all native objects. Like what you do with geometry in Rhino, now you can do for your analytical model in Rhino. Now, that should be my last slide. Well, that's what we're trying to do, provide you freedom and flexibility to model real-world complexity. As I have said always, and I say it again, we don't think this is simple. We don't think this should be a single-click approach for energy simulation, environmental simulation. We think you are capable to learn. We don't think designers are not capable of learning this stuff. And we think everyone should work together. We don't think it's only architects or only consultants. We need everyone on the table if you want to fix this problem. It's not an easy one. If it was an easy one, it would have been resolved by now. Take that from me. And thank you so much. I think this is a good time to take questions.
So Mostapha, we have one question about the future development for ArchiCAD plugin. Before we do the poll, I was just wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So we are in touch with the ArchiCAD team. We had a discussion also both with ArchiCAD, and we talked to IDA ICE too. And we are trying to figure out what is the right format to collaborate on that. They have an IFC exporter, you know, that might be the right way to go instead of GBXML. They have a GBXML exporter. It will take some time because their development suite is like C, C++, or C, yeah, C, C++. And we don't have any ArchiCAD power user as part of our team. That all of that will make it slow. But yes, we are in touch with them. They are working on their GBXML to be cleaner. I think that will be the first test to get a clean GBXML out of ArchiCAD. And if that's possible, or maybe a clean HVJSON from ArchiCAD, then everything can be linked to our platform. Yeah, I'm not going to promise anything right away, but we are talking to them. We're in touch.
Okay. So Mostapha, do you want, there's a bunch of questions coming in. Do you want to go through questions or would you like to do the poll still?
I mean, you're running this. You tell me. I can do either. You want
Well,
to
I
read
think
the
it would be
questions
good
that
to
you
just,
think I should answer?
yeah, before we get into the questions, we just wanted to kind of poll the audience and get an understanding of what, like who's joining us today. So let me launch the first poll. We just kind of wanted to know what everyone's background is, and hopefully that should be pretty quick. So let me know if you can see it on my screen, on your screen. So we just, okay, perfect. I'll give you a few seconds to vote and just let us know what your background is.
What if I'm a software developer?
Oh, sorry, I forgot software developer. I should have
So
added an
yeah.
extra next time.
Uh,
Okay. Okay. Doesn't look like everyone's at their computer. Oh, there you go. We got a couple more. I'll pause it when we get about 50% engagement with this poll. Should be a good, okay. Awesome. Okay. So it looks like we have mostly architects and engineers on the call today. And then the next question is really just trying to understand if you've already started using pollination, how many simulations have you run so far? Oh, some people can't see the poll on their screen. It might be going behind your like Chrome. So maybe just minimizing.
yeah, I can share my screen probably to help. So it's here. If you click on this small thing here, you will see the polls. You click on it, and then there is poll 1, poll 2. You can see I select architecture because I didn't have any other options, but here. How many have you run? How many simulation have you run? But that's
Okay,
me.
got it. Awesome. Thanks for doing that, Mostapha. So I'll show the results for the last one. And okay. Awesome. I'm gonna end this one and I'll release the results for you guys to see. So it looks like so far we have mostly architects, engineers, and most people have not run too many simulations yet. Okay. And the last one is just kind of understanding, oops, launch that, wanting to understand what your level of expertise with simulation in general is. So, yeah. Okay, awesome. That one was an easy one for people to answer. Got a lot of engagement. Okay. All right. So – think I'm going to end the poll there. And so we have a mix. We have some beginners, mostly intermediate to advanced users on the call, and some expert level. Sorry, my neighbor's mowing his lawn. All right, so the polls are done, and I can start with the questions that we've got in the chat here. So I guess the first question was from Leland. He would like to get this in front of his energy modelers group, modeling group, and would like this slide deck presented to them. Is that something that, I feels like Mostapha, you can probably
Sure.
schedule something with their group?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Just
So I'll
you know,
mark that
you
as
all have my email, so yeah, reach out.
okay, perfect. Um, so Leland, just send Mostapha an email and he'd be happy to, do a presentation for you guys. Okay. So the next question is from Sebastian. He's asking, is it possible to run simulation in a step-by-step fashion? Example, to run an energy plus simulation, one step, update HVAC set points, and then run the next step?
Okay, so right now you can't do that. That's something that you have to write your own recipe to make it possible for you. Long term, yes, but now you cannot because a recipe gets executed as a single unit of logic. It just gets deployed. But that's a very good very good feature. And I think it's definitely possible. The only issue that we have right now is like for you to develop a recipe, it's really, you have to know a good amount of Python code to be able to write your own recipe. Possible, yes. Is it like single click available? No.
Okay. If there's no follow-up question to that, Sebastian, I'm going to move on to the next question. So we have a question from, I can't pronounce that name. I'm really sorry if I butcher it. Wojciech. Do you have any plans on preparing recipes merging both energy and daylight simulations? So
Again, I think like any recipe question will be like definitely, like you can totally do that even right now because we have both of them as recipes. Maybe I should show here for people who are interested. So as an example, if you go on the app and you check comfort recipes, UTCI comfort recipe, you will see that the comfort recipe already is using irradiance simulation or what we call annual radiation recipe as a step of the process. So yes, like we already have the daylighting recipe, we already have the energy recipe. So what you want to do to take the daylighting recipe, add one post-processing for lighting schedule, and then connect it to your energy simulation. And if there is high demand on that, like just put it on Discourse and we see like if there are several people want it, we can do it. We can add this recipe.
yeah, I think the rule of thumb with the recipes is like the more people who ask for it, the more likely it is to become something that comes preset.
That's correct. And we are trying to really like help other people develop their own recipes. So it will be like we will happy to help others to develop their own recipes and deploy it. So they can go through the process and see all of it. If you have seen the early access post, we have a visual recipe builder coming, but it's not an easy task and it will take some time before we get there. Right now, there is again another post on Discourse that I can share that basically you can see how to develop a recipe right now using Python and Pollination DSL.
Right. So
If there is enough interest, we can do like a call or like a video of like how to write your own recipes more than that blog tutorial. We were not sure like how many people really want to go through that process right now. So there have been a couple of cases and we are helping them, one on a one-by-one basis.
Yeah, so the visual recipe builder is something that is a product that would be added to the pollination suite, just not immediately or during beta testing, correct? Because that's one of the follow-up questions that
Yes.
Watch had. Yeah. And then so he also has a second question with regards to lead and or like compliance. I think we are going to have ready to go recipes, but the question he's asking is, would it be like kind of like one click and done in terms of post processing as well? So once you run it and you have the results, will it automatically tell you that it passes or doesn't pass?
So that's, again, depends on how we write the recipe. So what we have right now in mind and the plan, and the first co-compliance recipe that you get will be the daylight credit. Most likely, we actually have the energy one as a private recipe, which we never expose. But the answer is what we want to do, similar to what we do. We give you the result that you want. If you want a single click, get something out of it. But then we give you enough information that has been generated during the process. So if you want to take it, do more QA, QC, or take it to another platform, you can also do that. The good thing about the recipe ideas is, again, because we don't have a visual editor, is not as obvious. But the thing is, for example, if you want to add one extra step at the end of a recipe, it's really like adding one of these nodes and then connecting it to the next one. You don't have to rewrite everything. And I know for now you have to use a little bit of your imagination to see how that works. But trust me, like that is what we come. And I think the good answer for that is we are not going to make that decision for everyone. We're going to make a recipe that gives you enough to build on top of it. You're mute, Junkie.
Sorry about that. Thank you. We've got the lawnmower here that I'm trying to mute out for everyone. Okay, so we have a question from Joshua Lawson. He's a scientific researcher in landscape architecture at TU Berlin. And he's asking how much integration there will be with pollination and urban microclimate solvers such as EnvyMet or Dragonfly. Is there,
Okay,
like, are we?
so the answer for Dragonfly is already integrated. So if you go here for recipes and search for Dragonfly, you will see there are at least 2 recipes here that are using Dragonfly under the hood for calculation. Both of them are annual energy. And we are working for a specific client on a daylight simulation, radiance-based recipes based on Dragonfly. So it is there. For EnvyMet, it's a complicated question because we haven't talked to them. We don't know like what's the distribution. Again, if they want to create an account and deploy their functionalities, it can be connected, but there is no plan right away.
And if the question was specifically about the urban weather generator and urban microclimate, like it's not too difficult to integrate that into the current Dragonfly plugin as well. Put that out there.
Yeah, the other part of the question was also looking at larger scale climate models such as Palm or Cosmo in a coupling mode, like an integration or an outlook for that.
Yeah, I think that's, again, another one of those things that you can write your own recipe. We can help you with that.
Awesome. So then we have 2 questions from Leland and Martin that are somewhat similar. They love the idea of democratizing the recipes. Leland's a little concerned about the capabilities of pollination kind of encroaching on the work that firms would get paid to do. So like, some of this, it's automating a process that a firm would be hired to do. And Martin is concerned about how organizations would actually work and collaborate on the platform and how that would work. Can you explain that a little bit more?
So for the first one is it's a concern about your job will be automated. I think, that's a very big discussion that people talk about. I don't think we're trying to automate anyone's job here. We're just trying to help you to automate the boring part of your job, or the parts that should be automated and you don't have to spend time on it. But it's still expertise, a person with expertise is the right person to be able to use these tools. Actually, we think this will add more clients to what you can serve, because that logic, if it can be automated, it can be served on Pollination. That means you can expose it to more clients. which I can go to the next question of like how different teams can work on together on pollination. We probably should write a longer blog post or a video on this, but I'll just show you the concepts that we have here. So pollination has the concept of organization. So I'm inside Ladybug Tools organization, right? I'm part of these two organizations. If you are part of an organization, you should show up here. If you only are individual, you don't have that. Inside organization, there are two concepts, members. So you can have different people as part of your team. They can be owners or members. These people can be like your team members in your office, or they can be people from other offices that come in. And here, because I am an owner of the account, I can see all this. If I go to another organization that I'm not, I won't be able to see all this information that I can see here, right? It's very similar to GitHub organization. Then on top of this concept, you have the concept of teams. This means you can make teams that from those members. So here, for example, we built a core team, tester teams, and consultant team. So you can come here and make a team for your consultants and add them to this team, which then these teams can be added to a project. So if I have a project here and I go in settings, there is an access here that I can say which team on the platform. And again, here we are using Ladybug Tools team as example, but it doesn't need to be Ladybug Tools team. It can be a team from somewhere else, or maybe I'm wrong here. But if it's even for you, you can add people from other organization to your teams. And after that, you can say, okay, for the demo project, team X, this team, like consultant, has read access. Or let me actually do it here so you can see. So Ladybug Tools consultant, again, can have admin access or write access. So if they have write access, that means like they can push jobs to this platform to run. If they only have, and this is like a UI thing that we have, oh, it didn't work. Let's try again. Consultant, read access, add. Oh, this one works with read access. So that means now these people here can see all the simulation that's running on this organization. If they have write access, that means they can run simulations. If they have admin access, that means they can read and write and they can manage the whole project. So that means you can basically come up with a scope of a project and bring your consultant on board to work together on that project. Did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I hope.
Can you expand a little bit more on, so what you just showed seemed to be private recipes, if I understand correctly. I'm interested in the idea of openly sharing these recipes so we can all collaborate and get the best ones, because that's what's the power of Ladybug. I mean, that's what's been so cool about what we've had. How do you see those working when those recipes we'd be sharing are now encroaching more than ever on what it is we seem to be getting paid to do day to day?
You're talking about the public ones or private ones?
Public ones. Private ones make sense, right? Because they're private.
Right.
I'd like to encourage everyone to be sharing publicly, and I feel like it's going to be hard to get us all there.
I see what you mean there. Yeah, that will be hard. That will be hard. That will be hard because, but I think the overall thing is like what anything else that we did. So by sharing, for example, like Ladybug Tools, we are committed to share as much as possible, right? And this will make things easier for firms to see a lot of things that they're trying to protect. Actually, the better version is already available up there. And it doesn't make sense to go and rebuild everything. Why would you do that? And that's what I mean, like everyone together can build better. But we have to be patient about that. And do I think it's going to happen? Yes, we saw examples of that when we were doing Ladybug Tools community, right? And we are doing to do a better, more polished version of that on pollination. This is something to be seen as we go. I'm very hopeful, and we have built the whole infrastructure for that, for people to be able to share, to be able to collaborate on recipes, on projects, whatever they want. Any other?
I know you had a bunch of follow-up questions. Did that kind of suffice with the comments you had in the
that was perfect. Yeah, I'm all set. Thanks, Mostapha.
No worries.
All right. Okay, so there was a follow-up. So there's a question from Saket asking about how accurate the model has to be when you're exporting from Revit or like AutoCAD geometry. And I know we have some tolerances built into the platform that maybe Mostapha you can talk about.
Right. For the Revit, I can answer quickly. It depends on what you want to get out of model. Do you want to do energy modeling? Do you want to do daylight? Do you want to do comfort? So that's like that makes a lot of difference of like how accurate you want the model to be. What we need is bounded rooms or spaces. So your rooms or spaces should be clean because that's what we export. There are two things that we're trying to do to help you with the process so you don't have to do everything manually. One is to give you human readable warnings and then give you solutions for that. So if you have a room which is unbound, we can tell you this is unbound. Either you can ignore it or you can go fix it. If you have a room which is not going all the way to top, to what they call room bounding element, we'll tell you it doesn't go to a room bounding element, but we created a roof for you or ceiling for you there. So it's up to you, right? And then like there are questions about if you do daylighting, you don't really care about boundary conditions. So then like if two room doesn't really match, you're okay. If you do energy, that's a different question. And I think one of the reasons we just, I'm talking about the Rhino plugin in the middle, because I personally feel it's really hard to get a fully ready to go model from Revit. But you know what, that's not what we really need at this point. If you can get something that I said 90 to 95% is correct, it's all good to just do the rest. Either you can write your automation scripts somewhere else to fix it from Honeybee.json. You can use our Rhino plugin, or you can fix it in the other software that you're using. So yeah, the question is, it depends. I think the answer is it depends what you're trying to do. I think what we can promise, if you have a room which is clean, we export it clean. That thing that I showed. Like if we don't do that, that's a bug, we'll fix it for you. Any other questions? So I didn't get a chance to show any demos, which I think is fine. We wanted to answer questions. So if you want something to be demo, just let us know and we do a follow-up like video tutorial or something so people can see.
It looks like we just have the one question, and actually Devang just answered it for Olivier. So if you want to move into a demo right now, I think it would be okay. I think
you know what people want to see, because we have like around 8 minutes.
Yeah. Do you have enough time for that, or? I
mean, sure. Like, what do you want to see, depending on what people want to see? So let me show you a little bit of the. Or I think people are like everyone is interested in Revit, so maybe I can answer that question here. So this is what I'm going to do this time. Instead of the model that I used for the example, I'm going to the larger office model from Revit and see if I can crash anything in the process. So yeah, I have told myself not to be experimental during the presentations, but I can't stop myself from being experimental. And usually these presentations helps us a lot to find bugs, you know, like the bugs that you have never faced will show up when you show to in public to people. So let's go for it. So this is the famous Revit model that we all know. Even I know who don't really use Revit. And you know, like this is a fairly clean model, what they have done, and you can see rooms are placed in the process. The way it works here, Pollination gives you these extra tabs that helps you, like there are some settings, material construction, all the stuff that you need. I'm not going to set up anything. I'm just doing like some quick thing, right? We have 6 minutes. So this one is the one I just wanted to show you, like, this is both energy and daylight, so you can actually generate sensor grids here for all the rooms. If you want, you can generate for some of them. I have already generated the sensors before, so you can see it says has sensor grids. But yeah, I'll go ahead and go here and say for all different 3 floors, select all of them and generate sensor grids. Then next step we didn't talk about Dragonfly model, but you can even export Dragonfly model for load calculation if you're only interested in extruded geometries. But here what's going on is it basically loading the whole model, and you can see every room gets loaded here. It will take some time because there are so many rooms, and it does all the calculation basically during the process and all the validation during the process. So if there is any room with issues, you will get a message there that something is wrong with that room. And in the latest version that we have, it lets you zoom to the room and fix it. Again, here, you'll see what happens. So this is all the rooms. I think this model, of course, we fixed it, so it doesn't have any warnings, but message shows up here, and then you can click here, and you will get some errors here if there is an error. So here, everything is fine. The thing that I'm going to do, like I'm just quickly putting some default values for the program time and construction. Of course, if I want, I can go and like do a decent job here of selecting the right ones. Here, I think it's a UI thing. I can't see this thing, the levels, but what I can do Control A, and I select all the rooms. And now I can export this as a HB.json file. It says here is denied because this is set to just go to Conrad's computer. So I'll set it to go to my computer. See, there should be pollination here. I'll just save it, make a new folder. User group. And I say, OK, close this thing, and try to save it again. So now it should take a couple of seconds, and the model should be exported. So far, good. Like, any questions? No question? OK. So we just wait for this.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Will the Revit and Rhino plugins feed only into Pollination?
No, that's what I said. You can basically export as any format, GBXML, OSM, or IDF, and just go do the rest of work that you want to do.
OK.
Is that answer? Yeah, OK. I
Yep.
hope that answered your question. Sure. So, OK, so this is saved now in C Pollination User Group, HB.json. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the file here, go to Pollination Demo, where's the user group. You see when you install the Rhino plugin, Honeybee model will be one of the file formats, and you can see GBXML also is added here. So now I can go here and open this. And now it's reading all the data in, and it does it async. So it's reading all the room data, all the sensor grids. Maybe I should have not generated sensor grids because that's the one that takes the longest, and we're not going to use it. But in a couple of seconds here, I will have like that full Revit model in Rhino as an analytical model. Here you go. Thanks everyone who kept their fingers crossed during this process. Because, yeah, you never know. So now you can see this model, like, and you see like there is something like, for example, I apparently didn't select the one floor. So one floor on the top is missing. I can go back and see like how Control A didn't work here. And that's not exported. So that's something that we have to fix on our side and fix it. But for the ones that gets exported, you can see the model is clean. And every single of them, so let me select this guy here. Actually, I'm going to change this to shaded. But now you can see like what I have here as a room, as a zone. As soon as I select it, you can see the conference here. So you have access to all the faces. And actually, if I click, you see the exact face. I can go and isolate this. And actually, we have a better thing even that I don't usually use, but you can double click on it and see the properties of this. And like DCA. So basically, this is now a Rhino model that I can go edit. I can access the faces if I want. I can access the aperture. All of this is here. If I want to go and change something, again, if I want to change any settings for this face, I can go and change that. I have access to all the information. So it's basically, as I said, makes this Rhino as like a full-fledged interface for energy and environmental simulation. So any questions here during the process?
Yes, we do, and it's a really good one. Claudio is asking any issues with curtain wall elements.
Yeah, these are curtain walls, aren't they? That comes in. from Revit. We basically do simplify all that complexity of Revit model to be an acceptable analytical model. That's what we take care of it. So you shouldn't be worried about like if it's double glazed, triple glazed, if it has like two faces. We simplify that for you. If it doesn't come through correctly, that's a bug, we fix it. And you can see here, it came through correctly. Shadings are missing some of them here because I didn't select them. So when you go in Revit here, context shades, you can go and select which ones you want to be exported. I just left it to default for this case. How do you merge changes in new design? Is it a question for Revit?
Yeah, so when, let's say the Revit model is continuing to change, but you exported at a certain stage, now there's been walls moving, maybe there's new partitions that weren't there before. How do you individually control?
So
do you only export those?
Yes, yeah. So we don't have a diff right now between like two HBJSON. You know, I think that's the concept that you're going through to say like, this space has been edited, this one has been modified. We don't have that. We rely on your understanding. And then you can export like a limited number of rooms and then import it as a file into like your other tool that you're trying to run.
So if you opened an HBJSON, you can also then import an HBJSON and merge
right,
them?
I mean, because yes, correct. Because the thing about Rhino is, let me actually do something crazy here. Let me go import another HBJSON. Am I going to break anything here? Let's see. Let's test it. So this is another HBJSON. I think when you open it, it asks you if you want to import it, if you want to have a new file, right? So here we go. Did I import the same thing again? I think I imported the same thing again on top of each other. I duplicated this. Does it make sense?
That's actually great, because if you exported just certain rooms, you could delete the other ones and then replace them in kind, basically.
Exactly. You can basically just import the portion that you select. Let me try this. Save only these ones that are selected. In the new one, I don't know, like it seems our selection in Revit is a little bit buggy because like it didn't do the third floor, but the concept works. So I did this and I overwrote the other file that I had. Not a great idea, but let's go and see. It was in user group, and this is the new one that I exported. Actually, because of the size, I think. Yep, here you go. You saw the new ones that I selected, which I didn't know what. So these are the new ones that came in. Everything else from the older one are still there. These are the new ones that I selected from the third floor. And this is still like, is only one. Make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions?
There were some in the chat box, but I was able to answer them.
Okay, and we're at the end of the 1 hour.
We are.
3 minutes over.
Lilian was asking if you can select multiple objects and change the property.
Oh God, yeah, you can, and this is and this is something that we had discussions about to make it possible. So yes, you can. So let me select this 4, and then double click. Oh, it didn't work. Of course, live demo. Yes, you can. If it doesn't work, it's a bug on our side. We'll fix it.
Try right click.
Right click. Property. And there is one of this doesn't load correctly, but please select honeybee here. I can do this. I can select this and say set room. Is it set room properties? No, it's still something doesn't load correctly here. But yes, in theory you can, and that's why it's WIP. But we'll fix it. The concept is there. Unfortunately, the show didn't show up. Finally, we broke something that didn't work. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. Mission accomplished. We found the bug that we have to fix. But yeah, overall,
So oh, go ahead.
No, that was it.
Yeah, so we'll spend the next month working on these bugs, and our Rhino plugin will be released in end of next month or end of this month, Mostapha. I think there was actually a question about it.
Well, technically, and Yeah, end of this month, start of July. I didn't want to promise, but now someone asked. It will be between this call and next call. That's what I said.
Yep.
So yeah, it will be before the next call.
Bring your
So you'll get it.
questions about the Rhino plugin to our next meeting, which will be in about a month. Thank you,
Yep.
everyone.
Yeah, and please keep posting your questions on Discord, like emailing us, try to break things. We really appreciate you doing that, and that will make the tool better for yourself. So yeah, thank you, everyone. Stay safe wherever you are, and thank you for joining. We had like more than 60 people, around 70 people. Unbelievable. Thank you so much.